Hello and welcome back to the second episode we're recording today, and it is the NFC Playoff Predictions for the upcoming 2020 NFL season. Thank you for clicking on this video, and we're just going to get right into it. First off, in my number one seed, I have the New Orleans Saints at 12-4. The games I have them losing, I think, are very, very possible. They split with their division. They lose once against every single team. They lose against Carolina at home, or when Carolina's at home, week 17. That's the only one that I can see them winning. And then Kansas City goes to New Orleans and beat them. Otherwise, this team's 12-4. They're very good on defense, very deep, and they're perfectly cool at quarterback if Drew Brees gets hurt, because I feel like Jameis Winston is still not criminally, but he's underrated because everyone's like, oh, he just he just throws picks. That's all he does. But he threw picks because of his bad decision-making, number one. But then if you get a teacher like Drew Brees and Sean Payton in that locker room, that changes your decision-making so much. So I feel like he's going to be really good the year after this one-year contract. And this defense is still going to be top three. I feel like they literally lost nobody. And Marshall Lattimore is going to have a bounce-back year, in my opinion. And they added Malcolm Jenkins at strong safety, which was kind of a weak point. So they just got better on defense after being top three defenses in the past two or 3 years.
Yeah. New Orleans is 12-4 for me as well, number one seed. I have them starting off 8-1. Their one loss is actually me a pretty key one. Week 7 versus Carolina. And they're coming off a bye. I think they're going to come out a little sluggish, especially after winning 5 in a row. So I have Carolina there. However, 2 wins versus Tampa Bay is a big factor in this season. So I like how New Orleans gets to play them week 1 because I don't think Tampa Bay will really be I don't know. They kind of have a new team, whereas New Orleans kind of had their same stars for quite a few years now. So I think that's good. New Orleans is going to win there, and they're also going to win at Tampa Bay week 9 as well. So those 2 games are going to be very big, and New Orleans is going to roll to another division title.
Yeah, I feel like people have gotten on the Tampa Bay hype train way too much. It's like you added an old quarterback. You didn't really upgrade your offensive line or your back end, but we'll get more to that with Tampa Bay. But I feel like people just kind of been like, oh, Tampa Bay's a lock to win the division, where New Orleans has been a Super Bowl champ or Super Bowl contender the past 3 years and has only gotten better. Next, at the 2 seed, I think we have the same 2 teams. I have the Seattle Seahawks also at 12-4 here at the 2 seed. I have them going 5-1 in their division, which is the biggest thing. I think they sweep the series against their only loss I have. I just looked at their only loss I have is against LA when LA is off a bye week. I feel like they can pull. I feel like this is going to be a theme in the NFC, but I think week 17 to decide the division between San Francisco and Seattle, Russell Wilson is going to magic his way to win that division title. I feel like it's that quarterback difference. That's the difference between Super Bowl contending teams and really good teams, is that quarterback, and having the best or one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and Russell Wilson is really going to propel them to win this division. At the beginning of the season, I do have them struggling a little bit. I have them 2-2 going into their break. I feel like that defense is going to need some time to really be cohesive and work together, just like they did last season, because last season they added Jadeveon Clowney. It took them a little bit. Now they added Jamal Adams, and it's going to take them a little bit again. But after that, I have them going on an utter tear, going 10-2 for the rest of the season. So this team, I feel like, is going to have to get into a role, and that's where San Francisco and Arizona really have bad luck, because they play both their matchups after that bye week against them. So it's just they aren't going to be in good shape at that time. Injuries and all that kind of stuff that comes with playing in the NFL.
Yeah, I also have Seattle. However, they are going to be 11-5, and it's actually really interesting.
Are they also the 2 seed?
Yeah, they're also the 2 seed, but Arizona is also 11-5, and they're my 6th seed.
Oh.
So, and I'm looking, Seattle's going to win both of the games against Arizona. First of all, in week 7, they're coming off a bye. They'll be well rested, so I think they can take care of it there. And then they'll play them in week 11, which is going to be the start of a 6-game winning streak for them. 2 weeks, 11, 16. So I think they're going to start. What they normally do, they have a history of kind of like rolling from like the middle of the season to like the end, sort of. So I think they're going to do that again this year, and it's going to start with a win at home Thursday night against Arizona. Another important factor is they're going to be 7-1 at home. They have some of the most, some of the best fans in the league, and I think this year they got a lot of big names. So I think the fans are just going to continue to be relentless against opponents. So they're going to win a lot at home as well.
Yeah, I do see that. I do agree. Moving on to the Dallas Cowboys, I have it the 3rd seed at 11-5. And for me, a Cowboys hater, I have to admit this team, quite possibly on paper, might be the best team in the NFL, talent-wise. They are stacked everywhere except defensive, like their right side of their D-line. Everywhere else is stacked and top 5 in the league, and maybe safety. But since they had Xavier Woods, it's still, they're so amazing on all facets. It's just incredible. But you have to remember, this is the Dallas Cowboys. They do have a roster to compete with any team in the league, but they're going to go 11-5 because they're Dallas. I think they're going to get upset at home by Atlanta. They're going to have to split with Philadelphia because they always do. San Francisco is going to go in there and whoop them, same with Baltimore. And then they're going to lose to Pittsburgh off a bye, because off a bye just helps a team so much. A bye week, depending on the team, especially if it's like the Steelers and they're typically an injury-riddled team, a bye week helps so much with them winning off of that. And so I think they're still going to be the 3 seed and go 11-5 and still be one of the best teams in the conference.
I also have them at 11-5 in the 3 seed. I also have them splitting games with the Eagles because I feel like they do that every year. But I'm looking at the schedule right here, and they're going to win from week 4 till week 12. I think they got a lot of easier teams in that stretch, and I think starting off with a win against the Cleveland Browns is going to be huge. I think they're going to lose to both Atlanta and Seattle in the previous week, so starting off 1-2, not what you want to see from a team that good. So I think it's going to be a competitive game against the Browns. They're going to come on top, and they're going to roll from there. So I do think a loss against the Ravens in week 13 ends that. But nonetheless, 8-0 versus losing teams. They have a weaker division. Dallas is superior. They're going to be 11-5 and win the division.
Yep. This team is just so ungodly talented. They have so much. They're so deep. So deep. And like typically with a team like this, I just want to say this quickly, is that if you have so much talent at the skill positions, your offensive line is trash. You know, like let me see. I'm trying to think of a team. Like Cleveland. There's probably more out there, but anyways. But actually, the Bengals have a lot of talent at their skill positions and then an awful offensive line. But anyways, back on topic, we're going next to my 4th seed, the Green Bay Packers at 11-5. I have them losing to New Orleans and Atlanta, and then I have them and San Francisco, and then I have them splitting with the Vikings and the Lions, because they always seem to split with the Vikings, especially since they're going to be playing the Vikings off a bye. In Detroit, they're playing in Detroit, and just because the Packers are the Packers, they're kind of like the Cowboys, where they who are also like Pittsburgh, who kind of play down to their talent level sometimes, and that causes them to lose. That's why Green Bay lost against Washington last year to give up that 1st seed last year. So I think they'll do the same thing around the same time with losing at Detroit, even though I don't think Detroit will be nearly as bad as Washington. But yeah, I think they'll sweep the Bears this year. I know that's surprising, but like the Bears' only advantage is they come off a bye, but they play in Lambeau, and just Aaron Rodgers is God mode in Lambeau. And I want to talk about Week 17, but that's going to be with the Bears, because I have a long talk with the Bears, because everyone's going to be surprised with my decision.
I do not have Green Bay winning the division. I've mentioned this so many times. They're not going to be good this year. However, Minnesota will. And Josh, I know you don't think that their cornerbacks and their offensive line will be good enough. However, I think they're going to make do. They do have a tough schedule, so it's not going to be easy. But I think Minnesota. I think Adam Thielen's going to have a breakout year.
Breakout.
Cousins is. I think he's going to play almost as good as he was last year. I think they're going to beat Seattle week 5, which is going to be really huge. Kirk Cousins has a history of not playing well in primetime games, but I think he's going to get it done week 5. And I also have them winning against Green Bay coming off of a bye. I think the Packers are going to start to flounder in the middle of the season. Minnesota's going to come off a bye. Their defense will be well rested, which is what they're going to need. So I think they're going to beat the Packers in a close one.
I have so many issues with I have them winning double-digit games, Minnesota, but there's just too many large holes. They have the talent, but just all in the wrong spots. Alrighty, moving on to San Francisco at 11-5 in the number 1 wild card seed. They're 11-5 because they're not going to go 12-4 like they did last year, and they're going to come out a little bit flat and fall on their face a couple of times. But this team is still so talented. They lost very little talent, and I think the only people they lost were Emmanuel Sanders, which they replaced him with David Ayuk, and then who I think's going to be better at this point in Emmanuel Sanders' career, and then they got rid of DeForest Buckner, which I didn't really like, but then they brought in Javon Kinlaw with that pick, who's basically DeForest Buckner 2.0. He's actually more similar like a Rick Armstead. He's bigger rather than more slender, but this team's going to have a struggle bus on the away side. I have them going 4-4 on the away side. It's just hard when you don't have a top-end quarterback. And now Jimmy G is good, but he's not top 5 quarterback or top 7. He's maybe top 15, so that's going to be an issue on the road. They're going to be splitting with Arizona, which is going to be good this year. They're losing both to Seattle. I think Seattle's they have their number ever since they swept them last year and stole the division title from them. Or wait, no, they didn't. Whatever. Seattle will have their number this year, and Russell Wilson is going to be the difference maker. But this team's still going to be extremely good. They have so much talent.
Okay. Before I get started, I want to say, I actually made a quick change because I noticed one of the things that I picked. Tampa Bay is going to make the playoffs for me now.
They missed it?
I saw that I picked the Vikings to win against Tampa Bay.
Okay.
Coming off of a bye, and so I'm like, that's not really going to happen. So now Tampa Bay is going to be 11-5 and Minnesota 10-6.
Okay. Is Minnesota still making the playoffs?
Yeah, they're still going to be the 4th seed.
Okay.
Now Philadelphia is not.
Okay, gotcha. Philadelphia is what?
10-6.
Gotcha. Okay. Continue.
Oh. Okay, so for my number 5 team, I had the Atlanta Falcons, and I'm very high on them this year. I think that Matt Ryan is going to be all reliable coming back, and he's going to throw for a lot of yards. I think Julio Jones is really going to have an outstanding year. He'll finally actually get recognition from the media. I think the Falcons are going to start out 6-0. However, it's going to get cut short by a very disappointing loss to the Detroit Lions at home. So, the Falcons, they're not the greatest team on paper, but Todd Gurley's going to come back. And so, after they go 6-0, I think that they're going to get too high on themselves, and they're not going to really try against Detroit. I think they're really going to underestimate them, play down to their level, and so I have Detroit winning there. However, I do see them beating New Orleans coming off a bye. I actually have them winning the next 4 after they play Detroit. So that'll be 10-1 to start off the year. So I think they'll continue to just roll. Maybe not so much down the stretch, but they will beat New Orleans week 11 off a bye.
Wow. All right. I would like to get to Atlanta later. I personally do not have them making the playoffs, but moving on, this is going to be a long one for me. This is going to make the episode longer than we would like, but I honestly just have to talk about it. It's going to make Gavin annoyed because we're trying to cut down our content to shorter so we get better views. But I have the Chicago Bears at 11-5. Everyone is disrespecting the Chicago Bears at this point. I am done with it, all right? I understand Mr. Trubisky might possibly be the worst quarterback in the NFL. I understand that. I get it. But couple of things. Number one, if he starts out that bad, he's on a short leash. He's going to get pulled and Nick Foles is going to go in. And by the way, Nick Foles was injured the same week Aaron Rodgers was injured, week 1, 2 years ago, but Nick Foles was last year, and he threw a touchdown with a broken collarbone. Aaron Rodgers was out for the whole year. Nick Foles came back week 12. They rushed him back from injury, and he sucked because guess what? You need your collarbone to throw a football. Who knew? So I think he's going to be good. Then this defense is by far the best in the NFL. Khalil Mack's going to have a comeback year with Akeem Hicks healthy, and Robert Quinn, who had 12 sacks last year or 10 sacks last year, on the other side, so he doesn't get double-teamed and chipped every single play, and he'll win Defensive Player of the Year. And Eddie Jackson will move back to free safety and have a great year again. Roquan Smith will now finally cement his place as a top 5 linebacker in the NFL. People are disrespecting this team just because of one position. Granted, it's the most important position on the field, but other positions can carry you to good records. This has happened time and again, where other positions and the entirety of the defense can carry you to good records. Now, I'm not saying they're going to be good in the playoffs. I think they may win one game in the playoffs, but depending on who they face, but they aren't going to win a Super Bowl because they don't have that quarterback. But they have the defense to carry them to this record. It's insane that people think they're going to be this bad, as well as they have such an easy record. Such an easy record. Shout out to Bleacher Report for putting them 30th in the league.
No, they put them 27th.
27th. Name 7 teams that are better than.
No, they said that the best the Bears will do is 24th. Like that's their best case scenario, is being a 24th best team in the NFL.
So I think they're going to sweep Detroit because they've done that like every year the past 5 years. They're going to sweep Minnesota because they have their number, and then they're going to lose to Green Bay because the exact opposite. They're going to lose to Atlanta because, of course. They're going to lose to Tampa Bay because, of course, in New Orleans. I think the close games that I have them winning are obviously against Minnesota, and then I have them winning against Tennessee because I feel like Akeem Hicks is going to be able to lock him up. Derrick Henry up. But I'm done with the disrespect on the Bears, especially since they have such an easy schedule. Yeah, I can easily see them going above 500, let alone winning 10 games. They have to just beat all their out-of-conference and besides the NFC South, and then just at least go above 500 in the division, which is very possible. So I'm done with the disrespect. The Bears are going 11-5. Mark my words, clip it. They're going 11-5 and winning the Super Bowl. No, they're not. Anyways,
I was gonna say
Josh, go to your 6th seed now. Go to your 6th seed.
Okay, well after that longer talk, we have my number 6 seed, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 11-5. Now, I don't think the Buccaneers are gonna. I hate to say this, Buccaneers. I don't want them to be good. Looking at their schedule, they probably will be good. I'm going to be honest with you. I have them losing 2 early ones to the Saints and the young Broncos. So I think it's going to take them a little bit of a while to get situated and kind of Gronk to find his rhythm, Brady to get comfortable. But, I mean, they do have a lot of talent on the offensive end, not going to lie. One important win that I can see them having. Coming off a bye, they play Minnesota week 14. And I think Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are going to have a field day against Minnesota's lackluster secondary. So I have them winning that game as well. They're gonna be 5-3 against winning teams, which is going to be very important. And so Tampa Bay will make the playoffs.
Alrighty. At that 7 seed, speaking the Tampa Bay team, here they are at 10-6. This team's very good, very talented. I just feel like the back end of the defense is just extremely young. You have 3 or 4 top picks, early round draft picks, and you just got to hope that they pan out correctly. games I think they're going to lose is, just every good team has this. They're going to slip up a couple of times. They're going to slip up against Carolina, Las Vegas, and the Chargers, in my opinion. They're going to split with Atlanta and New Orleans. And then they're going to also lose to Green Bay because Green Bay is coming off a bye. And, they're going to have some big wins as well, like beating Atlanta, beating New Orleans at home, beating Kansas City. I feel like I said in the AFC video, if you were listening to that one, I just feel like Tom Brady is going to assert his dominance again, being like, I am the greatest player ever, and kind of put Patrick Mahomes back in his place and be like, hey, kid, you can throw as many long passes and no lookers as you want, but I'm still the most efficient quarterback in this league. So I feel like they're going to be making the playoffs at a 10-6 record and locking up that last wild card spot.
Interesting. Well, my last wild card spot is the team from Arizona, the Cardinals. So interestingly enough, they're going to start off the season 5-0, then also win their last 4 games to finish out 11-5. That's going to be very huge. They're in the hardest division in football. Second hardest. They're going to go 3-3 in their division. They're going to lose both to Seattle. One of them, Seattle's coming off a bye. I actually have them winning both games against the 49ers, which could potentially not happen. They could lose both of them. They could go 1-5 in their division, not going to lie. So this is the division that I'm most unsure about, but I'm also very excited because all those teams are talented. You can make a case that each one of those teams could win their division.
I think all 3 of the 4 NFC divisions, you can make that argument.
Yeah. So, I do have them losing against LA again. So they have a couple just losses against good teams, Dallas, Buffalo. I already said Seattle. But they're going to start off strong. They're going to finish strong. And that's really what's going to help them. So 11-5. It's hard to believe that the Colts got in with 8-8, whereas there are 2 teams that didn't make the playoffs for me that are 10-6.
Same here.
It's blasphemous.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, speaking of Arizona, they're my first team out as well as 10-6. I think the main issues with them is their defense and their offensive line. Even though they got their offensive line better this year, the issue is, or not the issue, but the resolve is you have Kyler Murray, who's a very athletic quarterback, and he'll be able to really make up for a lot of those mistakes that the offensive line has. And I feel like Kenyon Drake is honestly at this point in his career a better running back than David Johnson. And then you just, casually added top 3 running back. And I feel like this defense is very young, has a lot of promise. And I feel like the main thing is Isaiah Simmons, because Isaiah Simmons can do anything anywhere at any time he wants. So I feel like he's going to make such a large difference being there as an inside linebacker and kind of doing everything. I feel like that's really what's going to elevate this team's defense. And Kyler Murray, I think, is going to have a great, great year and break out as one of the best young quarterbacks. And then, so I just have them as their first wild card team out.
Okay. Well, for me, the team that I wanted to bring up, my favorite team, Josh's favorite team, Josh's 11-5 team, good old Chicago Bears. I think they're going to be better a little bit. I have them going 9-7, which in this stacked conference just isn't good enough. I think 2 important wins against LA and Indiana kind of early in the season are going to help. I don't think Mitch Trubisky is going to be terrible. I think eventually they're going to bring in Nick Foles, but I mean, at some point, Mitch Trubisky's got to play. I think I have them going 3-1 to start, but I mean, down the road, they just have some brutal matchups. I have them actually going 0-3 against the teams 1-3 against the teams from the NFC South, and then they just have some other tough games against Tennessee, Minnesota. So, as well as I also have them losing to Houston Week 14, which is really going to be a killer because if they win that game, heck, they could be in the playoffs.
Wow. Okay. That's losing against Houston. That's tough. No wide receivers, and you expect them to make any ground with David Johnson in that defense. With that defense,
I just think they're gonna be very underplayed.
So
very bad.
Was the Bears the first team out, or were they the second team out?
They were the third team out.
For you? All right. So I'm going to talk about my second and third team out. Number one's Minnesota at 10-6 as well. Their main issue is they just can't win in their division. They've had this issue for a long time now. They aren't very good in their own division. I think, in their division I'm 3-3, which isn't as bad as I thought. They kind of split they lose both against the Bears, and they split with the Packers, and they sweep the Lions. It's not as bad in years past, but I just see no way that they're going to beat like New Orleans or Dallas. Or Tampa Bay, especially if they're coming off a bye. So there's no real other wiggle room I have for them to be able to go 11-5 and make it in the playoffs. I think the biggest thing is I have them here, and I think this is partly a factor from Kirk Cousins, is that they're 3-6 against winning teams. So it's just they play a lot of good teams this year, in Atlanta and all of them. Atlanta, the entire NFC South is good, and then you play the AFC South, which is basically Tennessee, and then your own division's amazing. So it's going to be super hard for them to make it in. And I don't know if I can really trust that offensive line in this division with 5 or 6 superstar defensive linemen, and the Smith brothers, Mack, Hicks, and then Flowers with Detroit. So, as well as on their defense, they just have talent in the wrong places. Their ends, oh my goodness, their ends might be some of the best in the NHL, the NFL, with Yannick Ngakoue, Daniil Hunter, Anthony Barr, Eric Kendricks. That edge is amazing, but because you lost Linval Joseph, your run defense just went down the drain. As well as you not only lost your number one cornerback in Xavier Woods, but you also lost your second cornerback in Trey Waynes. So it's a whole mess on defense. They should not have traded for Ngakoue. They should have traded for a cornerback or something like that to boost up their defense, their back end of the defense. And finally, we have Atlanta. This will close out the video. I just want to touch quickly on Atlanta. I have them going 8-8. I feel like this team can go 12-4. This team can win their division. This team's super good. But the issue is, same with last year. They're basically the same team as last year that you just added Todd Gurley, which I know I'm not saying you just added Todd Gurley. Like, if you told me this 2 years ago, you would have been like, oh, just added? Dumbass. But Dan Quinn's still the coach. Dan Quinn might possibly be the worst defensive coach ever after his last year's performance with that team.
Okay, you say one thing. You said that they still have the same team as last year. However, that same team from last year is like the same team that was 25 points away from winning a Super Bowl.
That is true, but you lost Kyle Shanahan. It's in the coaching for this one. Sure. It's in the coaching and the injuries, not the talent. I'm not bashing the talent. This team can go 12-4, like I said. I just don't think they will because they already have a ton of guys on their injured list. Keanu Neal's already questionable. The other safety, oh my goodness, I'm bad for not having this pulled up. Keanu Neal's already questionable. Ricardo Allen's already questionable, and Deion Jones was questionable as well earlier this week. Now he's not. And then Marlon Davidson, the guy you drafted to play next to Grady Jarrett, is also questionable. So it's going to be injuries and coaching for me. And I feel like Dan Quinn isn't going to be able to get it, and I feel like he's not being talked about as being on the hot seat as much as he should be, because I think he should have been fired after last year, because last year they didn't have a ton of injuries. They lost Keanu Neal, which was their big one, and Deion Jones at the end of the year, but just he was calling way too much zone when this is a built for man or mixed defense. Just insanely stupid calling, and this team is just unfortunately going to go 8-8 and just having probably the toughest schedule in the league. And those are our picks. That's it for the
NFC. Let us know what you think in the comments below.
Yeah, give us some feedback. Constructive criticism or not, just yelling at us, we really don't care. Just please tell us what we did right and wrong. Thank you for listening. Please like, share, subscribe to anyone you know that likes sports, and thank you for listening.